Tell me, Adi brother, what should a home be like? How should a home and relationships be? Relationships should exist inside the home. Relationships shouldn't be for the outside world. Because I am merging these two questions. Because relationships aren't working out inside homes. It's just a facade outside. They fight at home but go to a wedding together, walking around holding hands, trying to show it to society. A home should be such that when you walk in, you feel, wow, what lovely people these are, or look at how they sit and talk. Every person has a different mindset, but they know how to talk about things, how much respect to give to whom, and when not to. Understanding is required, and I say that a home should be like this. I have always been very clear about my home. I really love nature. If you ever visit my place, you'll find a money plant in every bottle. There are so many pots you can't even imagine. Because I feel that vibes are very important in a home. Plants can provide the best vibes. Humans are negative. Humans are positive. They get angry. Plants don't get negative, positive, or angry. They stand there peacefully. They only have a thirst for water. That thirst keeps growing. Keep giving them water, the plants will keep growing. We prune them according to our needs. Isn't that right? And the same thing happens in human life. We keep cutting people off according to our needs. We keep giving water and they keep growing. They said something, cut them off, move them aside. So a home should be such that when you enter, you feel all your life stresses left at the doorstep. The home should be lovely. When you enter, there shouldn't be any talk of the outside world. When you sit down, you should feel, yes, it's okay. I want to sleep in peace. I want to live peacefully. When you enter the house, there should be your wife, mother, sister, brother, father, everyone. Every relationship should be present. It shouldn't be that one person enters, grabs their wife's hand, sits in a room, and everyone else is just roaming around, if that's the case. It's better to live separately. And when you go home, go with the intent of being with everyone. Just live together, man. A home is just four walls, and it's called a home because a family lives inside it. Suppose I give you a 12-story house and you are all alone. Just try living there by yourself. Will you be able to? Why aren't you able to stay? Because now you can do whatever you want on your own terms. Now, what if I leave you in that 12-story house with your wife? You still won't be able to stay there. A single floor is enough. On one floor, one room is enough, and in that room, one bed is enough, or even just two chairs are enough. Just to sit together, to have a conversation. But if there's no conversation happening, then what's the point of the house? But if the whole family stays, then even a 12-story house feels small. Someone is wandering here, someone is wandering there. Let's sit down. Let's talk. Let's go upstairs. People keep coming and going. Sometimes the mother makes you sit by her side. Sometimes the father makes you sit by his side. Sometimes a brother shares his heart out, right? There are so many people. The problem with us is that people prefer to live alone these days. Houses are getting bigger. People are becoming fewer. People are becoming fewer. Earlier, it used to be that a house became a home. Now homes are starting to become just houses. It's happening in reverse.
Tell me one thing. Is this like necessary to bring up, brother?
What is the difference between a house and a home? A house is something for tenants. A house is on rent. A home is your own. If I live in a rented house in Bombay today, it was just a house for me as long as I was alone. After I got married, it became a home. Because now it is mine, because there is someone sitting there waiting for me. Someone is waiting to ask me how I am. Someone is waiting for my arrival. That makes it a home. It's still rented, but it has become a home. As long as it's just your stubbornness, your ego, and you are alone, it remains just a house. Even if it's on your own land.
Wow.
That's all it is.
Man, this is the first time you sat alone with me like this. Look, today, we don't talk much in front of our wives, right? There's a little bit of sorrow in our hearts, too. So this is something important that I usually can't ask. We should just ask it.
Yes. You are looking very smart today, mashallah.
You know it. I know it. It even shows up in the comments, right? I mean, I was just looking at some old photos. Like you mentioned, back in my modeling days, I was so chubby. So have you ever been rejected because of your looks?
Many times. The modeling incident I mentioned where I was kicked out and humiliated, that happened a lot. And comments about my looks were made quite often. There's always a lot of focus on physique. But how you take it is what matters. In a positive way. In Bombay, there's this specific culture where people talk about your jawline, about how your hair should be, about how your physique should be. But I didn't take it to heart. I said, fine, I'll change it and show you. Just give me a month or two. It needs to be spot on. You shouldn't feel frustrated about things you can't change. And things that can be bought or changed with money, there's no need to be disappointed about those. If someone comments on my face saying, hey, your face is like this, yeah, fine, bro. It is what it is. End of story. My face shape is quite round. Like, it's called a U shape. So it's round like that. I was told I should have a jawline, a V-shaped face. Okay, so I keep my beard a bit fuller here. That's the modeling trick. I keep more hair here, and a bit less on the side, so it looks V-shaped. And that's the end of it. What was there to be so stressed about? Now, the day someone asked me to shave it off, yes, I feel like it would look a bit strange, but that's okay. Has your heart ever been broken? Have you ever cried for someone? If my wife wasn't here, I'd tell you. The order has come from over there. Forget it, I'm right here. Let me reminisce a little, bro.
We are both interested in this topic, brother.
I never truly fell in love with anyone until the person I married. Before that, I never really loved anyone. Yes, I had crushes. There's a difference between love and a crush. In college or childhood, everyone likes someone thinking, oh, she's so pretty. Let's go talk to her. And they just reject you. Yeah, that happens. That's happened a lot. So my heart hasn't really been broken in any major way. But yeah, it happens a little bit when you don't get a reply. Like back in college, there was someone, I won't name her. She probably follows me. So I kind of liked her. She was nice, and we even started talking a couple of times. Then she was hanging out with some other guy, and that really hurt. Man, I drank until 2 a.m. that night. It's the truth. It happens, man. Hearts keep breaking. You know, we humans are like that. We attach expectations to everything. It should be mine. And when it isn't, the heart just breaks. Don't attach your heart to things. Yeah, not everything in this world can be ours. Whatever you have, how much ever it is, be happy. Enjoy. Keep growing. Don't decline. My mother always says, son, always keep growing. Growing means keep moving up. Don't fall. And I had a Hindi teacher named Madan Sharma. He said a very lovely thing. Son Aditya, always remember one thing in life, that whenever you feel arrogant, look at those who are above you. And whenever you feel pity for yourself or feel miserable or wonder what you're doing or aren't satisfied, then look at those below you. So I follow this philosophy. Whenever I feel like I am this, I am that, I see that, son, there are many still way above you. When I feel sad, when I feel, man, I don't have this, I'm like this, then I look at those below me who don't even have hands or feet to... If today you are sitting inside a car, have money in your pocket, and can buy anything, you are very lucky, extremely lucky. Because someone has a car, but they are working as a driver. You get to sit as the owner. It's not in everyone's destiny. Every person has money in their pocket, but they are working in a bank. There is a difference.
He's playing with stacks of cash, but not one of them is his. Yeah, by the way, this suddenly reminded me of something, your reel that went super viral.
Yes.
It crossed 20 million views. Huge congratulations on that.
Thank you. The shoot happened right here. It's all because of you.
Brother, it's just that friendship is like this. I help my friend move a step forward, and my friend helps me move a step forward.
Exactly. That's what we were talking about at the start. A platform becomes a medium. We just came here and sat down. A platform takes a person from one place to another. In the podcast, the words came from the heart. They were meaningful. They made sense. And I always say, speak words that work after 6 p.m. You know, my point is that when a person is sad, not just sad, look at it this way. Everyone hits a low phase after 6 p.m. You notice it. I've seen this a lot. When a person wakes up in the morning, they think, what should I do today? What should I do today? Let's do this. As soon as the evening sets in, at 5 or 6 p.m., they sit down. This didn't happen today. That didn't happen today. So when your words reach them via a podcast or a reel, when it goes in front of them, it's like this. So every word of yours that motivates a person after 6 p.m. works and is heard. That is why people drink alcohol in the evening. That is why people get intoxicated. Evening is such a thing that it gets dark. To recharge you, like the evening is here, go to sleep. Look at what God created. We feel sleepy as soon as it gets dark. There's no alarm set or a button, nothing. Just sleep. What is sleep? No one has understood it to this day. Just fell asleep like that. It's a routine. People mostly cry at night. They feel sad at night. Arguments happen at night. So that's the thing. Everyone likes those words. It should be the right time, the right place, the right person. Every word you say will be understood. True. And
Man, we also talked about friendship, which people really liked. This reel here, the one where you said that an IAS officer guy will marry a village girl, and the village girl is...
if basically, I said this. If a girl, yes, I said that if an IAS officer guy wants to, he will marry a poor or unemployed village girl who doesn't earn an ordinary girl. But if a woman is an IAS officer, she won't marry poor unemployed guy because she wants someone equal to or above her, and that's a fact, and it's not just for IAS officers. It's for every girl. It's for every boy. We guys, just think that my life partner should be happy with me. We don't care about anything else. She should understand what I say and explain things to me. Other than that, we don't have any expectations. I always say in life that you should build relationships with those who are your equals or below you. Because equals will understand you, and those below you will give you respect. If you build them with those above you at some point or another, that moment comes, you don't even know. I have done this thing. We have this. You didn't even have anything. Our elders used to say, son, be a little careful when sitting with those above you. You might get knowledge, but you also get scolded. We are, right? Those who are equals, the Hamsafar, like I said, it doesn't just mean someone who walks along with you. Hamsafar also implies someone who is your equal in status. So this applies to every relationship. For every boy, for every girl, there should be capability.
And this is the same thing in friendship too. That friendship is between equals. Where do you come from? What are you? No. Makes a difference. But the day you call someone a friend means we are equal.
If we are friends today and I start counting my income and you start counting yours, it won't be equal. Right? If you start talking about your family situation and I talk about mine, it won't be equal. But our duty is to sit together. I share my sorrow, you share yours. You laugh your laugh, I laugh mine. We are sitting together. Energy is being exchanged. That's friendship. Not starting to count. What have you done for me till date? Hey, brother, was the friendship for doing things? Then that's just a transaction. That's business. Then do that with someone else. Do you know what a friend means? I always say that a friend is the only relationship we choose to make ourselves. In that friendship, no material things should ever enter. Not income, not money, not any family matters. Friendship means that as long as you are there, everything is there. Now, if I am going somewhere, if I'm sitting with someone, I will tell them before. They will give me advice. Look at your family or your life. I have seen that even if you mess up in life, a friend is the only person who says, tell me, brother, where do we need to go? That is a friend. No one else. Friends should be those who are there for you at the right time. That is a friend. Friendship doesn't rely on talking every day. It doesn't need daily phone calls, and it doesn't need time-to-time updates. A friend should be someone you haven't spoken to for years. It's okay. It's not a big deal. But when you meet after years, the conversation should be, what did you do all year? Tell me, you rascal.
Yes.
Right? This is it.
Ultimately, if you look past the trouble, we only want one thing from a friend. Sit, talk, and listen. And when you are sitting with me, my friend, you are only sitting with me. 100 things in the world shouldn't matter to you because your friend is sitting with you now, and for me, those 100 things won't matter because my friend is sitting with me.
Speak without hesitation.
Speak without hesitation, and with the trust that even if your brother can't help you, telling me won't cause you any harm. Tomorrow, 4 people won't come to you saying what you told me and they heard from my mouth.
This reminds me of an incident just a few days ago, 2 or 3 days ago. I have a friend, childhood friend. I met him after a year. We were sitting and chatting. We were having food and drink. We were laughing and joking. Then we started to leave. Something came up during the conversation. I just said that I never make such demands of people or the conversation turned to friendship, that I am that kind of person. I told him that I am the kind of person who will never demand anything. If I don't have it, I won't ask my friends so that they don't get hurt. The answer my friend gave me back, I kept thinking about it for 2 days. He said, Aditya, if you ever need anything in life, just ask once. If I don't have it, I will try to arrange it. So that is what friendship is. That you just ask, buddy. If it doesn't happen, it's okay. I will arrange it. Something will come from somewhere. No matter what the situation is. For a friend, your trouble becomes their own trouble. If it doesn't get solved, well, many of our own troubles don't get solved either.
But just as I try to solve all my own problems, I do the same for a friend.
In my life, there are friends, and there are 2 types of people. One who switches off their phone at 10 p.m., and one who never switches off their phone, wondering whose call might come, might need help.
Yes.
2 types. I can't switch off my phone, brother. I feel like, what if I switch it off? Who knows whose call might come? What emergency might arise? Even if there's no emergency in my own house. What if something happens at this very moment? If something happens to a friend at night, the phone should ring so I know.
There are people who switch off their phones at 10 p.m. Well, it doesn't even matter. Let it be. And even among friends, there are different types. Like, there is a variety of friends. If you look at friends, there is a distinct variety. One friend with whom you discuss all the practical things in the world. Emotionless conversations. Right? And you know they aren't judging you. One friend in front of whom you vent all your sorrows.
Yes.
Isn't it? There is a specific friend you call only when a fight breaks out. Calling the other 2 is pointless. So there's a variety in your life, just like all the faces we have, the masks, keep falling off.
How many people we find in one single person?
So just like that, for all your faces, you have corresponding friends. Because every face needs a friend.
Man, the childhood friends, we can speak our hearts out to them because they've seen us. With clothes and without clothes. You get it? We feel no shame in front of them because they've known us since childhood. They know everything. They might even know our bank account passwords, right? Because we tell them without hesitation, saying he's my brother. But the new friends we make, the friends from our youth, I always feel that there is some underlying motive in them somewhere. I think it is like that, for whatever reason. You go to a club, a bar, or some party. You meet a friend. What do? I do this. What do you do? I do this. Hey man, let's meet up sometime. If you say, I do nothing, brother, I'm unemployed. I just wander around, will they invite you? They were making you a friend to see how they could get their work done. There is a motive. And a motive isn't necessarily wrong. It shouldn't just be your own motive. It should be theirs too.
The we, not I, relationship you mentioned for husband and wife is also applicable here.
Absolutely, that's how it should be. I wrote a poem a long time ago about friendship. It just came to mind. Letters, jokes, some scraps of paper. Letters, jokes, some scraps of paper. Letters, jokes, some scraps of paper. I swear I burned them with great pride. That face of hers, it doesn't let me sleep. Today I called a friend from the village just to cry. Wow. So it was that thing where when your heart breaks, you call those friends of yours and say, brother, come over, I can't handle this. And it becomes that friend's duty to say, brother, just wait. I'm coming. And when you sob while hugging them, perhaps no one else in the world can handle you like that. That's exactly how it is. And I feel that along with this, the deeper the friendship, the more they will be connected to your family and you to theirs.
Because a close friend's sister is your sister, their mother is your mother, their father is your father.
It's that same thing where when that person or friend is at your house, you tell their parents, Auntie, don't worry, they are sitting at my plate. They think, yes, okay, son, no problem. Because they know, yes, it's fine. But when you make new friends, try telling your parents, son, be careful, son, keep an eye out, that happens. Like, who knows what their motive might be. The right kind of friend is essential. Absolutely. Now, Adi, brother. Now, I just have a few questions. Yes, go ahead.
None of them are connected to each other.
You can think of this as a rapid fire round.
Okay, sometimes we get carried away, but anyway, this is a rapid fire, right? First thing, I will ask you a question.
You tell me. If you could have one superpower for a day, what would it be? My wife must have already given this answer, by the way. But it's just that, man, there shouldn't be any diseases. There shouldn't be any sorrow. Because nowadays I feel that money and all these things will keep going on. Illness is one such thing that breaks an entire family and has no cure. No matter how small the illness is, it brings a person to their knees, takes everything away, takes away emotion, takes away the family, takes away the money, takes away the health. It leaves you with tension. Diseases should be eliminated from the world. May all be happy. All. Something should happen, or you snap your fingers and all the world's diseases end. Yes. What is the life of a middle-class person like? It is full of dreams. They live to fulfill those dreams. They live for others. If you ever look at a middle-class person, you'll find them always walking around with a bag on their shoulder thinking, I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to get this done for them. Right? A middle-class person has so many dreams. A middle-class person is afraid of rising, and they are also afraid of falling. If I go up a little, will I fall? Or if I reach here, what will happen to those around me? They think a lot. Poor souls can't even live for themselves. If they fall, their status will be ruined. The people around them will leave them. A middle-class person is tied down, brother. Tied by relationship, society, family, friends, emotions. They are bound in every way. You are middle class too, and I am middle class too. The rich are those sitting in big, luxurious 27-story houses. Right? They don't have that much tension because they know they have enough for their next 10 generations to live off. Every person who has to think about what their children will do is middle class, and this is the story of every household. Does the Illuminati exist? Okay. Yes, I think maybe does. I have read a lot about it. I am very fond of reading. I read about it somewhere, and I read it in quite a lot of depth. Some things even happened to me. At one time, well, we will go into details about that later. So the Illuminati exists because I believe in the same thing, that if there is God, then there is the devil too. You cannot deny it in the form the devil takes. You can call it Illuminati or whatever else based on what we understand. It is a dark energy, a black society, a dark society, a secret society that wants things to happen according to them. The media, culture, everything we see today is them. Their biggest medium is media, TV. Whatever you see gets imprinted in your mind. They are showing exactly what they want. Today, if you and I sit together in the evening, all the things you talk about all day, this happened on Reels, that happened on social media, this happened there. You're doing exactly what they wanted you to talk about. There is a movie, I've forgotten its name. In that movie, this concept was shown very clearly that there is a man who gets stuck somewhere. The man who gets stuck somewhere. He is running away from someone. I could not watch it completely. He finds a pair of glasses. When he puts them on and steps out, he sees the whole world is turned upside down. There is a hoarding with some company's branding on it. For example, an advertisement for a soap. As soon as he puts on the glasses, it says obey on it. What does obey mean? You must know in Hindi. To follow orders. He takes them off. The ad is there. A TV is playing. He puts them on and the video on it is playing. Obey, obey, obey. He sees a banknote in a man's hand and he is giving it to someone and it shows obey on it. Then he goes into a restaurant or a shopping mall where he sees a rich man getting out of a car and he has a skeleton face. As soon as he takes them off, he is just a normal rich man. There are things happening that are controlling us. They are controlling all of us. We think we are living our lives on our own terms. No, they.
So basically, if you look at it, the Illuminati is the group that is controlling our minds.
Controlling the mind. Media. There are both negative and positive vibes in media and the dark, man, and we are quickly attracted to the negative. If someone told you today, anyone at all, to either become spiritual and live like a monk to get everything in life or offered you 5,000 crore rupees, what would you choose? What would you choose? Tell me what. Negativity attracts. Black clothes attract the most. There is negative energy. Cool, and I just remembered their agenda too. I read somewhere about a book called New World Order. It says that in the end, the world's population should only be 500 million. That society believes that everyone else living is just consuming resources. They are depleting the Earth's resources. There's no point in them living. That's why pandemics are created intentionally to reduce the population on a massive scale. Today, 7 billion people are living. 7,500,000,000. Do you realize That's not even all of India, let alone Haryana. There are way more than that. How many are there? We are 1.4 billion people. Yeah, man. Just imagine what would be left. They could actually do it. Given the way things are heading, it could definitely happen. It's not a big deal for them. You never know, man. Anything can happen. And in the past, some really massive diseases have come along.
That destroyed entire villages, wiped out entire cities. So you can't really say. Nothing can be said. Man, why are you so serious all the time?
Do I seem that serious to you?
Yeah, I mean, like your wise brother-in-law character. It's hard to relate to that when I know you in person.
Man, I don't know. Maybe my face is just like that. When I was a kid, people would often ask, what happened? Did the teacher hit you? Why is your face so long? I guess by God's grace, my face is just built that way. So I'm not really being serious, but I do overthink a lot. I'm always thinking about one thing or another. Something or other is always running through my mind. Maybe that's why my face looks this way. Everyone wants to be happy, but then there are responsibilities, which say you've laughed enough, now do some real work. That's exactly it. Tell me this, man. The anger that reflects in your words, it reflects in your thoughts. Why is there so much anger? I've heard a lot, taken a lot of taunts. I've heard a lot from society, from friends, and even from my own family members. And I heard it at a time when I had even thought about committing suicide, because they had used such harsh words. They had said those kinds of things. Until you hear things against yourself, your heart doesn't truly stir. It doesn't get rattled. When you hear that you are doing something for someone and that same person asks, what have you done until today? You are just doing this. You just melt, brother. Then you feel in your heart, move aside, just move aside, just move aside. Now I will show you who I am. So one type of aggression is the motivation that works to energize your body. I feel there are two types of aggression. One is meant to harm someone. The other aggression is for energy. If you lift something heavy, you can do it with a calm mind, right? You say, come on, 1, 2, 3. This is one type of aggression. And then there is another type of aggression. Go on, lift it, don't get stuck. A bone broke. There's a difference between the two. So there were some questions from people and some answers. Now we will answer them. That is why it is like this. I have stopped sitting with everyone. I have stopped talking to everyone. I have stopped trying to explain myself to everyone. I live for myself. I live for my family. I don't take responsibility for anyone else and how they are living. I speak my mind. Now let others think whatever they want. Perfect, brother.
One last question that is very important. Perhaps I should have asked this earlier, but it is very important to understand right now. Like, we do jobs. I know 90% and 95% of people listening to us are doing jobs. Acting or appearing on TV is a very different thing. This is a complete business. Can you briefly tell me the process of an actor getting a job, doing the work, and getting paid?
The very first thing is that acting is a game of patience. You have to show patience before getting work. You have to show patience after getting work and patience after the work is done. There is no process. You learn acting. Because no work can be done without learning it first. You might get lucky once, but you can't get lucky every time. You can get by with shortcuts, but not every time. Learning is essential. There is theater, plays, and workshops. There are many things that teach you. Learn acting. Go out there. Look for work. Go door to door. Knock on every office door. Give auditions. A time will come when you get work. In that work, show them what you have learned. Show it, and things will take off. This is a simple rule. Showing patience is very important. When you will get work, even you don't know. How long that work will last, even you don't know. After that work ends, when you will get the next job, even you don't know. There is a lot of uncertainty in this line.
And so, let's say you get a serial. For example, the role of Hushar Jiju that you played, if you get that. So how does it work? Like, how do they pay people? How is the budget distributed?
During auditions, the budget and everything is discussed. Auditions take place. You are finalized for a character. After being finalized for the character, you are told how many days are allotted to you each month. For example, leads usually have 25 days allotted. 5 days are considered holidays. Those can be any time, 1 day here, 1 day there. For normal character roles, it could be 10 days, 5 days, or even 20 days. So the days are set, so you know how much work you have each month or what you can do in between. You can do other things too. You can even do 2 cereals. Then the payment is decided based on your per-day charge. In cereals, per-day charges are mostly fixed. There is a daily payment that is totaled at the end of the month, and you get paid after the first 3 months. You get paid after 3 months. There is some rhythm they have for these 3 months. Don't know what the deal is, but it is like that. For example, if you start acting in a serial in January or start the show, then you get paid in April after January, February, and March, and then it starts coming every month. There is a 3-month gap.
Oh, like Rain, that's what I'm understanding about the money. It comes once, then a drop.
The drought is just that. You have to keep at it. Nothing can be fixed here. There are big actors who have started succeeding now, who were once superstars. The examples are right in front of you. Who have started now? How many people have vanished? Surviving like this is also very difficult. You must have a second option as a backup. I always feel this. Whether it's family income, backup support, or whatever you call it. Side by side, you must have something on the behalf of which you have patience. To stay in the mindset that if this doesn't work well, something else is happening, but you won't be able to depend solely on it. I have seen some people, it feels very futile to me when they say we drive a taxi at night, we do other business. You can do it, but it will show on your face. And this is what will earn you your bread, right? You drive a cab all night, can you act in the morning? No, your eyes will be puffy for free. You have to stay a certain way. You will have to stay fit. You will have to wake up on time. You will have to eat on time. Do yoga, go to the gym. Go to auditions. Stay a bit relaxed for when the call might come or what might happen. Give time to yourself, meditate. There are so many things to do. Now, if I start driving a cab at night, don't eat or drink all day, then what will be my condition? And acting is a game where certificates don't work at all, so anyone can come. Anyone is leaving. There's a saying in Bombay that crores of people come filled in. Lakhs of people are leaving. That's why the population there has increased. More are coming, fewer are leaving. It's a game of patience, brother. It takes many years.
And suppose the serial couldn't run for any reason before 2-3 months, whatever happened. I mean, if it closed before 3 months, do you get the payment?
Yes, you get it. There are some productions that don't pay. They eat the money. There are negative people everywhere. Or there are some production houses, some producers who don't pay. They feel, why pay? Forget it, we aren't paying. They suffer losses too, so they don't pay. Things aren't in the artist's favor. They can't claim much. Because if you claim or ask, you will be blacklisted, kicked out, and won't be given work. What can one say?
And I'd like to understand one more thing. Like I had to shoot a web series once back in 2016, so I started the whole budget and everything. I brought the director and the whole team. And I remember the entire night we shot, the director cursed at me so much, so many times, that I haven't heard that many curses combined from 2017 to 2020. So how tense is the environment? Have you ever had to work in such a toxic environment? Yes, it absolutely is. Because you are not the only one working there. There is someone to show you. There is someone to make you hear. There are so many people. There is a guy above your head holding a light waiting for you to say the line, clearly in one take so he can get up. My knees are hurting. But then retake after retake, he is cursing in his mind.
A director is sitting there who is frustrated and cursing openly. Everyone's work, when one person is in front of the camera, there are 50 people working behind it. One fumble creates tension in the minds of those 50 people. That's why there is frustration. Because the artist will say something, take their time, and leave. If they do more, they'll even get overtime. But those sitting behind, what can they do? There is a lot of frustration. So it's a game of great patience, brother. You have to work with great composure and thoughtfulness. It is very difficult. Do you want to work in movies, brother? I want to work in every field, but I want to do it on my own terms. I am not in any rush. In life, I just wanted this, man. Look, even today, many people tell me, hey, do this, do that. I always say, brother, I have done what I wanted to do. I had a desire to appear on TV, to show the name of my village, where I come from. I appeared on TV. A serial running for 1.5 years, that's fine. By God's grace, 2 or 3 serials ran. 2 years each is a lot. I am happy. I don't have this pressure that I must earn money, print this, print that. No. I want to remain content in life. It's coming in. I have other sources of income. They are running. I am happy. I am not in the rat race. Because if I start keeping in my mind that I have to do this too, then tension and depression will follow. No. I'll only do what makes me happy. That's it. So Adi, brother, tell me, why are we so afraid? We fear losing things, that we might lose something. But we don't even know what that something is. That father shouldn't leave, mother shouldn't leave, land shouldn't be lost, money shouldn't be lost, wife shouldn't leave, children shouldn't leave. The problem is that the most certain thing in the world is death. We aren't even afraid of that. We are afraid of the things we shouldn't be afraid of. You know that one day you have to go. I know. You know that your father has to go one day. My father has to go one day. Is there a worry that he has to go one day? No. The worry is that something shouldn't happen right now. We fear that the companionship shouldn't break. That fear is also necessary because it keeps relationships. The fear that is necessary is because it keeps the relationship held together. It teaches us to show respect. If you knew that your father, or the person you love most in the world, would never leave this world, you would stop showing respect, thinking, yes, they're always here anyway. We know that we have to do these things while they are around. We have to fulfill that dream. We fear that something might happen before that dream is fulfilled. We fear that we might leave after doing this. If it doesn't get fulfilled, then is there a fear of that? We humans always live in such complexes and think so positively about ourselves. I have seen it myself in the world. When you meet someone, they say everyone has to go up one day. Why not go down? Up is heaven, right? So down is hell. Whoever you see, they say go up. Why? Go down too. Everyone in the world has committed sin. Look at the fear where the fear should be. It isn't there. Dying one day, there's no fear of that. Going to hell one day, there's no fear of that. It's just a complex that, man, these things should get done. If they aren't, is there a fear of that? So you have to go to hell, and I have to go too. Don't worry, lashes on a bare body hurt a lot. Brother, they hurt a lot. A lot. Yes.
You said it as if you just came back after experiencing it yourself. Just now. Heard that Yamraj just killed 4 horses, brother. I am just getting to that.
Yes, everyone has to go, but you are absolutely right about that. Look, what makes life beautiful is the temporary nature of life's moments. That fleeting quality is the magic that when I meet someone or say goodbye, I give them a heartfelt hug.
Because they're going to leave. You know it, so you want to hold on to that moment. At least if I go, this moment should remain. This last hug, this last bit of love exchange should stay with me. If I knew that I would be meeting this person for the next 50 years, I might not even look at them when saying goodbye.
Yeah.
That thing is temporary, right? That is what makes life beautiful.
That's it, brother. We don't want to lose anything in this world. There is a fear of losing. It could be anything. That is it.
Wow.
And man, as you mentioned earlier, you are the eldest son in your family. What is it like being the eldest son? It's being filled with responsibilities, brother. The responsibilities are immense. Suppressing desires to fulfill needs. Every person who is the eldest in the house, I feel they live like a father. They know there is someone under them. Let them do what they want. I cannot do that. Everyone has dreams in life, like I will roam around in a car like this. I will do this, I will do that. We don't do it. We think if I do this, then who will earn? Right? So the eldest in the house is like the second father of the house. If my father isn't there, I am sitting here. Even the father knows that the eldest one is there and will look after things. So a father can never indulge in excesses. A father has responsibilities on his shoulders. So we keep moving with responsibility. The elder brother knows the responsibilities on his head. There's mother, brother, and sister. I have to take care of everyone. I have to do something for everyone. If father leaves, I have to take charge. If any problems arise, I will go first. I am the eldest in the house. So an eldest boy has responsibilities on him. We have stifled our desires. That's how it is, and it will keep going on. And I am the youngest in the house.
Right? So I don't have many desires left.
Why?
Because you are fulfilling them. You are able to do it. You know that there is someone above you who will look after things.
I'll give you a small example. Today you want to party. You will leave the house. Hey, look after things, I'm leaving. Handle it yourself. I don't know. You left. Where should we go? What if I leave and something goes wrong back there? What if some small mistakes happen? What if this happens? The fridge closed? These are small things. Is the iron switched on or not? Is the geyser still running? Right? These small things are what we keep in mind as a father figure. Close the gate. If the kid is roaming, keep him over here. Those are the fatherly things we do. We don't fulfill our own desires. Exactly. And there's that aspect too. Like, I am 32, but since I live with my parents, I am still a little kid.
As long as there is someone older, that is a big responsibility because as long as that elder is there,
Only then can the younger one stay a child.
Yes.
we don't want to lose our childhood, man.
Hmm.
So the elder is there, and that is why the younger one has a childhood.
Because there is an elder in the house, that is why the younger ones can fulfill their wishes. That is a different thing. And it is human nature, brother, that we look for childhood in the elderly and look for mature behavior in children.
Wow.
Right? Look at a small child. When they make mistakes, we say, hey, sit like this. Do it that way, go here, go there. How can he? He is a child. How can he act like an adult? And the grown-up man, we say, hey, he doesn't joke around like this. We are bent on making him a child. We are never satisfied. So this world, brother, will keep going on. Yes, people will come and go. I always say one thing, you shouldn't take tension in life, brother. I tell everyone, live for yourself. Live for your family, do whatever comes to your mind. My father even goes as far as to say that if you have to become a terrorist, be such a big one that no one can even catch you. Your name itself should be different. Whatever you do in the world, do it big, do it for yourself. Enjoy, eat, drink, and live in fun and frolic. Doesn't matter a damn what anyone thinks, what they think about you. Society of the four people, they are nobody. They are the ones who need to ask for things in the end. That's all it is. No matter how much you abuse now in the end, everyone has to say this. Wow, rum is the truth. Come on, let's go to the next house. Okay, fine. Wash hands, take a bath, and it's over. These are all useless things. Just live freely. There's nothing in these things. How about, let me tell you a small thing. What is your age? How many years do you think you'll live? Whatever you think. Like 670.
Yes, like that.
Let's assume 70. I'll say 70 just to make you happy. You're assuming 70. Subtracted, how many are left?
Oh man, one was matching up. 38.
38 are left, right? Okay. Within 38 years, you have to have kids, get married, get your kids married, and raise them. You have to leave enough for them so they don't have any worries. You have to see their kids too, meaning you have to see your grandchildren. Is it possible within these 38 years to do all these things? The previous generation did it. Right now, it feels difficult. Right now. So you can either be stressed about this or enjoy the fact that 38 years are left.
You put me in a state of tension. I mean, for 10 seconds, the joy vanished from my face. That's how it is, man.
Is there anything to do, really?
You have to do it, brother. Everyone earns thinking that I should leave enough for 7 generations. But in the end, they only find happiness for themselves throughout their life. That's all there is to it.
Because the next generation that comes will have their own destiny.
They will bring it themselves.
Who am I to do things for them when the one providing for me is the Almighty?
No matter how much you do, it will eventually go away, brother. The one destined to earn will earn, and the one destined to lose will lose. That's it.
Perfect. Adi, brother, this was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for inviting me. We had such a lovely conversation. I always feel a sense of relaxation after a podcast. I feel like I said what I wanted to say, and it will reach everyone's ears. It really is a feeling of relaxation.
I feel good in my heart right now.
Yes, it's great, feeling very light.
I also felt really great, Adi, brother. Everything that I got to learn from you.
Since we come from very different worlds, when we sit together and have such deep conversations, it's truly enjoyable. Adi Bhai, thank you so much for coming on this podcast, for being a part of BabaCast.
Thank you so much, brother.
And this is our final day, brother. Life will go on. We'll keep talking, keep chatting.
Thoughts keep coming, knowledge keeps growing, and we'll keep sharing whatever little we have.
Feel we will sit down together many more times. There is still a lot left.
Experiences will keep coming. Something or the other will keep happening in life.
We have only measured a bit of the land so far. The entire sky is yet to be conquered. So thank you so much, Adi Bhai. And Baba folks, this was our podcast with Aditya Rao, which we really enjoyed. And we learned and understood so much. I hope you enjoyed it equally as well. You must have gained some new insights. And wow, it was great. So stay connected like this. Subscribe to our channel and Aditya Bhai as Aditya Rao by the name Real Aditya Rao.
Yes, on Instagram, it's under the name Real Aditya Rao.
It's under the name Real Aditya Rao on Instagram. I know you might already be following him, but just in case, brother, go do it. Right? And if you're following him, then follow me too. Rest, brothers. Take care of yourselves. Take care. Take care. See you in the next podcast. Until then, good night.